We are live. Hello, everyone. My name's Alan Pope, and this is Nick Skaggs.
Hello.
And we're here for the regular weekly community team Q&A, where we answer your questions. We both work for the community team at Canonical, working on various parts of Ubuntu. We can answer your questions on various topics, anything to do with phone, desktop, maybe a bit of Snappy, and some other related topics. If you've got any questions, then the best place to ask them is in either IRC. If you're on Freenode IRC, join the Ubuntu On Air IRC channel. It's #Ubuntu-on-air. Or alternatively, you can just point your web browser at ubuntuonair.com, and there's a box at the bottom of the screen, and you can type your questions in there, and we'll see them. It would be appreciated if you prefix the question with the word "question" in all caps, because then we see them highlighted on our screen, and you can chat in there with the other people and shoot the breeze and. Yeah, basically get your questions in as early as possible, because we have exactly 1 hour to do this, and often it gets to the very end of the hour and we have questions left over because they're asked quite late. So get your questions in early if you want them answered. Before we start with the questions, to give you a chance to ask, we've got a couple of things to mention. Nick, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about what you've been up to the last couple of weeks?
Sure. As I mentioned last week, and probably the last few times I've been on, Ubuntu was applying to be in Google Summer of Code. So those of you may have seen that yesterday, Google actually announced the organizations for Google Summer of Code for this summer. Lots of cool organizations are on that list. I know Debian, as well as some cool bioinformatics stuff that I find interesting. So there's open source projects and open source projects beyond what you would normally think of as an open source project. There's even some games in there.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really a nice mix. However, Ubuntu is not part of that mix. So sadly, those of you who were really looking forward to participating in Google Summer of Code and hacking on Ubuntu and Ubuntu related things, it's not going to be happening this year. I do appreciate all the help from the mentors and, again, all the interest from the students. I think we put together a strong application, but sadly they can only accept so many, and they like to keep things fresh. So they tried to rotate in some new new faces who have not done Google Summer Code in the past, and then of course that means a few old faces have to go. So
yeah.
I think like I said, they had almost 300 or 400 applications, and they can only accept 180, something like that. So
a lot of people were going to be disappointed there, right?
Yes, there's a lot. We're not the only ones. We weren't singled out. There's a lot of organizations who've made it in the past.
Right. And there's a mixed blessing, really. It's it's a shame we didn't get in, but then the flip side is it's a huge amount of work that someone's going to do.
Yes, I joke now. I have my son. I got to plan my summer now, because suddenly I have all this free time.
And the good news is you can still contribute to Ubuntu. There's nothing stopping you from contributing to Ubuntu during the summer or the winter months. That is still possible.
Correct. That is still possible. So to that end, I guess if you still want to participate or still want to hack on something within Ubuntu that you find interesting and you need help, Alan and I are always here. Anyone on the community team is always here. Send a mail to the list, talk to us on RC, whatever. We're happy to help you get started.
Yeah.
Lack of participation doesn't necessarily have to limit you. We're still here. We'll still be hacking on stuff. So feel free to join us.
I had a ping on Telegram the other day. Someone pinged me and said, I've been using Ubuntu Phone for a while and I've been hacking on various things. I'd like to start contributing to some of the core apps, and asked how could they get involved, what could they do, and I pointed them in the right direction, and we got someone to help them. And sorry, my cat's here. And we found some work for them to do, and they're now hacking away on cool stuff in Ubuntu. So yeah, all you got to do is ask. If you're looking for something to get involved in, just ask one of us in the community team, and we'll point you in the right direction. Doesn't matter what your skills are, we'll find somewhere for you to get involved.
Indeed. What else is happening, Alan? I know we have some events coming up, and we're actually ahead of schedule in talking about this.
So what is it? 1st of March now. In 2 months, at the beginning of May, we have our regular Ubuntu Online Summit. We do this every few months to plan and discuss Ubuntu for the coming months, for the next cycle or so, or the next couple of cycles. The Online Summit is an online event where you can just point your IRC client and your webcam and your microphone and get involved. It's really easy to get involved. If you just go to summit.ubuntu.com, all the details are there. You can register to attend. Obviously, it's completely free. And you can attend and listen to the various sessions, or you can get involved, create your own sessions. If there's something you're particularly passionate about, something in Ubuntu that you would like to see improved, you could create a session on Summit and speak to one of us, and we'll schedule it in at an appropriate time. The slots are 1 hour long. I think they're all 1 hour long, aren't they, Nick?
Yes. Yep.
And they go from...
You even fill the whole hour, to be fair. So don't let someone has a 15-minute thing to talk about. It's totally fine. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. So it runs from the 3rd of May to the 5th of May, from 2 o'clock until 8 o'clock UTC. So you'll have to adjust those times for your time zone. But yeah, grab a slot, have a think about something. The slots are divided up into separate tracks to give you some idea about the kind of topics that might be useful to discuss at the summit. There's also, are we doing a show and tell track this year?
No, but we're definitely encouraging any show and tell sessions. So for the past few UOSs, you may have seen me promoting and trumpeting do show and tell sessions. I think they're really interesting and cool. And show and tell session is essentially that thing that you did when you were in kindergarten. You brought something in from home and showed it to the class. That's what we're talking about here. Showing off demos, just talking about what you're doing. Big flashy explosions. We like that sort of thing. If it blows up, even better. But just talk about what you're doing within Ubuntu, and that could be in the realm of anything. How the loco is going, something innovative or new that you're doing there, software that you're working on, whatever, a tool that you built, something that you find interesting. So it's really wide open and definitely accessible and available to anyone. So don't feel left out if you're not a kernel hacker. The summit is really for everybody, and you'll find that most people there don't fit into that category. Most people there are like the rest of us. There's users and enthusiasts and people who just want to contribute. So don't shy away because you're not a Uber hacker or anything like that.
Right. And you can schedule sessions on any real topic, so long as it's related to Ubuntu. It's related to contributing to Ubuntu in some way or improving contribution to Ubuntu. That would be awesome. If it's something about documentation, or if it's a development related topic, just find a bunch of people who are interested and run a little session. There's no limit on how many people are minimum in a session. We often have sessions with just 2 or 3 people in, and we use a lot of online tools to make the sessions go well. So we'll use Etherpad, for example, to create notes during the session, because one of the problems is of having a load of sessions over a period of 3 days is you can have sessions which you can't attend because you're busy in another session, or there's just a huge number of sessions and you can't digest all of it in one go. And if you miss a session, it's very useful for someone to take notes so that you can pick up on what was discussed as a summary and decide whether you want to watch the video later, because they are all archived on YouTube. So we use Etherpad. People can take notes, take action items, or just notes of what happened and write it up later and deal with whatever the outcomes of the meeting are. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you on May 3rd to 5th online. Go to summit.ubuntu.com for more.
Yes, indeed. Okay, I think that was perhaps everything that we wanted to talk about. Perhaps. For those of you who are interested, we do try and send I think it's a bi-weekly update, and I think one of those went out just last Friday and talks about everything in excruciating detail, more than we'll want to spout on about here. But on the Ubuntu community team mailing list, you'll find that David Planella usually sends that out about every couple weeks, and you can see the full details of what we've been up to and the rest of the community have been up to. Things of note, if you will. All right, I think we have a few questions starting to trickle in. I'd be surprised. MWC was last week. I know we talked about it a bit, but we didn't really get to talk too much about some of the things that were being shown off there. So we'll see if we get any questions around that.
Yeah, I understand there was. I wasn't at MWC. I was at a separate conference in Germany, Embedded World, and that was a whole other world. Figuratively and actually. Loads of these kind of, like the Raspberry Pi single board computers that run, low-end, low-spec operating systems, like Ubuntu Snappy and other Linux distros and so on. It was quite eye-opening for me how many of these manufacturers of these little board computers there are in the world. So I didn't really see much news about MWC because I was away. So all I've seen is some photos of some of the devices that were shown off there.
Right.
Cool. Right, should we crack on with questions?
Yeah, for sure. Tech Lords has the first question. He's asking, when will GNOME Software Center be available? That's a good question.
I thought it already was. Is it not already in the 1604 default install? I know it's currently being worked on as a replacement for Ubuntu Software Center. So as of 1604, the default image will have GNOME software for installing applications. It will be the graphical manager for installing software, where we previously had Ubuntu Software Center. This was a decision made a few months ago, and it's been discussed. We've talked about it on this Q&A a few times. There's some work that needs to be done at the back end and on GNOME software to make it fit with the Ubuntu distribution. I don't know whether all that work has been finished yet. I'm sure there's some outstanding. I know Robert Ansell is mostly doing that work on the desktop team under Will Cook. So if anyone has any questions, then Robert Ansell or Will Cook is probably the best person to ask.
Yeah, I would just add that as far as I can tell, what's still in 1604 is still the Ubuntu Software Center. But I have seen inklings. I've not checked it out myself quite yet about the changes to GNOME Software Center to add the ratings and the comments and the other bits that we've come to know about. But yeah, definitely soon. Final beta is coming up here, I think in a couple weeks. So
it needs to get in soon.
Yeah, I would expect to see something within the next couple of weeks, for sure, landing in Xenal. If it's going to ship, it's going to land. So, the next question is for you, Popey. Slavik asks, "Are you going to buy a new Lenovo T460 laptop?" So,
I guess
I've been badgering Alan a little bit this morning about his laptop, and he's got one for each arm, I think, today.
I can show you my current laptop. Wait 1 second. I will be right back.
Alan's taking a blast from the past. I think he's running on a couple old, ThinkPads, I guess, before they were Lenovo, perhaps, because the T60 is an IBM ThinkPad, right? It's not even a Lenovo.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a ThinkPad fan. I love ThinkPads, and my current ThinkPad is a ThinkPad X220, and this is what it looks like right now. That's the motherboard from my laptop. I had to take the whole thing apart because there was a hardware problem with it. So yeah, it's all in pieces until I get a new part, which is I had to order on eBay, and should be arriving by the end of the week.
So you really got into that embedded world thing, right?
Yeah, I saw all your PCs all over the place. I thought that's for me, so I started stripping down my computer. Yeah, it's more. I just need to fix that laptop. So, yeah, and I've been looking around for new laptops, and yeah, the question is quite pertinent. I quite like the idea of the new ThinkPads, but they're a lot of money. So I might have to save up my pennies and ask for one for Christmas, or maybe for my birthday. But yeah, I'll probably buy a ThinkPad. I keep looking around at all the options, and I like the build quality of an Apple laptop, and I like the keyboard on a Lenovo laptop, and I like the screens of other laptops. I like the features of others, the form factors of others, and there is no perfect laptop. You compromise on something somewhere. And
that I could definitely agree on you with. I've had laptops over the years, and I've always liked various points and features of them. And if I could have my favorite features of every laptop I've ever owned, then I would have my perfect laptop. The keyboard from this, the screen from that, etc. It's never really come together.
Yeah, it's difficult to find that perfect one. I took the hard drive out of the X220 and I put it into an old X61S, which is really old, and I'm currently using that, and it works quite well. So cool.
Oh, okay. So Rip Awesomeness does have a question. He says, my scope idea ended up falling through, so I wasn't able to enter in the last scopes contest. Are more of these planned in the future? Well, darn, that's really sad to hear, actually. If you do want some help on finishing up your scope, or otherwise, trying to deliver it, even though you've missed the contest, feel free to contact anyone, but specifically David Calais. He'll appreciate me mentioning him. But he's your scope guru and master, and if he can't solve it, we certainly can. So check him out on IRC. He'd be happy to help you out. Or any of the other scopes developers. There's a growing community of folks who have successfully written scopes now, especially after the contest.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll have another one anytime soon, another scopes contest, because we only just had that one, and we try and rotate the competitions around, so we have contests about different things, as time goes on. So yeah, if you've got an idea for one, now is probably a good time to start developing it and get it working and troubleshoot with David, as Nick says.
Right. We should have more contests though. I don't know when we'll do the next one, but I'm with Popey. It won't be. I think that's a pretty fair assumption to say it won't be about scopes. We'll pick something else.
I really want us to have a little game development contest. Have create a puzzle game or create a simple game on Ubuntu, or QML based game or something like that. I'd love to have a little mini game dev contest. I don't know how long it would last, but I think it'd be quite good fun.
Yeah, I was going to mention, I know that's where Popey's brain's at. I'd like to see that too as well, actually. I think that could be good fun. And there's so many options for toolkits and how you could bring the game. So I'd be really curious to see what people do with that. You could make a WebGL games, you could use STL, you could use Bacon 2D. There's like lots of interesting options, and I think it would be good for the platform, and of course, good for us who like to play those little idle indie games. So
yeah, there's something I've been playing with recently to try and get working is a program that actually is one of the participants of Google Summer of Code this year is ScumVM, which is a nice tool that lets you play old interactive adventure games, point and click style adventure games like the King's Quest and those kind of games. And there's a whole library of those kind of games that can work under ScumVM, and they lend themselves to touch interfaces. And now that we have SDL2 support in MIA, potentially we could run things like ScumVM and other tools that allow you to very quickly port a large number of games, bring a large number of games to the platform.
Right.
Porting. So rather than port one game, you could port a framework or a platform across to Ubuntu, assuming it runs on Mir or runs on SDL2. You could potentially win and get a whole bunch of games on the platform, which would be good fun.
Indeed. So Popey is always available to field and especially test any of those gaming ideas you might have.
Yeah, I have a range of devices that I can test on for you, and I have a couple of children who happily test stuff on my phones as well. My rates are very low.
There you go. There you go. Very affordable. All right. So Sponge has another question for you, Alan. He's wondering why you're meeting in a blood bank, aka he's noticed your red wall. I find it very attractive, personally.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it. It's just a different room in the house, so
I need to switch up. I felt that. I said this room's a bit old now. They noticed it was new. I feel I need to switch to yet another room again, or outside. That could be fun.
Yeah, it's a bit cold and wet here, so.
Oh well, you can see trees. It's beautiful springtime here. Bees and birds and all that stuff. Okay. All right. Slavik asks another question. Is there a plan to integrate various messaging apps like SMS, Telegram, Facebook, WhatsApp into one place in Ubuntu? The short answer is yes. Do you want to give the longer answer, Alan?
Is there a longer answer? I think yes, there is a plan, but it's a difficult one to do. Like, there are some protocols you can, straightforwardly add together. Like if you look at something like Pigeon, for example, and Bittleby, which are both systems that let you talk cross-platform across a bunch of different chat platforms. There's a common set there that you could bring to Ubuntu, right? If you ported those kind of things to Ubuntu Phone. The problem comes with the really insanely popular ones like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and so on, where there isn't the open API that there is for some of the others. So there's open, well-documented APIs for things like Java, but there are and the API for Telegram is well known. But some of the others, which are the really, really popular ones, are not well documented. And so you get into a situation where you end up with one chat app or one messaging app, but some of the protocols are missing. And so you always have to have a second or third messaging app for those other friends and family that you are only on that network, which is a bit frustrating. So I'm not sure how far that will go and whether we'll be able to get buy-in from those third parties and add their protocols to the messaging system. But I think that is the long-term plan, is to have a central messaging app.
Right. And there are some changes coming in OTA 10 to messaging that are a bit nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a little bit of a refresh, some of the UI and the interactions, the visuals and that sort of thing. I think, like, for instance, how you compose messages and that sort of thing is a bit different. But yeah, so I would say if anyone who remembers Pigeon or still uses Pigeon and what was that? Can't remember. Anyway, but you remember some of the issues with doing this in the past, and of course that was when networks were a bit more common. It was just text and maybe some smileys or something. So
right. So
it's difficult then. It's more difficult now. Right. Yeah.
Right. Adding emoji and voice and video and all the other stuff as well. It gets more complicated, and especially when the APIs change for each one. Yeah.
Right.
It's a tricky thing to fix, and which is one reason why it hasn't landed yet, is because I don't think there's an easy solution to this.
Indeed. All right. Sponge asked for a shout out from MyRGrip's website, which is devices.ubports.com. Yeah, so we can mention him. I think Alan can probably give a better bio than I can. However, I do know that Mario has agreed to actually come on and hang out with us on a future chat. Maybe we should try and schedule that for next week so we can talk a little bit about what he's doing. But he has, as you say, devices.ubports.com, and it's a place where there's a bunch of community develop ports for Ubuntu Touch and on different various hardware devices. You can see the status of what's going on and participate, as well as donate or help fund devices for the developers to make sure that the ports go well. So it's definitely a cool website. And yeah, if you're curious, like I said, we'll try and get him back. I know he's already agreed to do it. I'm not sure what day, but one of these days you'll see his face, and you can pepper him with questions then.
Yeah, Mario did the port for the 1+1. So this lovely device, the 1+1, he did the port for that, and he's also now working on a port for the Fairphone 2. And there's a whole bunch of other ports on the list that he would like to get to, but he is just one guy. And it would be great if other people who have porting experience or have devices that are on that list could maybe help out and get Ubuntu ported to those devices. It would be great to see more devices. It's not a problem. Is porting is not a straightforward task. It's actually pretty tricky. It takes a lot of time, and it's an iterative process to get the graphics stack working, and then you get graphics stack working. Let's get power management working, and get Wi-Fi working, and Bluetooth working. And for some devices, it's easier than others. And for some of them, you can use some of the work that has been done on other devices. So once we get a small pool of devices that have different chips in them, it makes it easier for us to port to other newer devices in the future, to some degree. So it'd be great if we could get some more people helping Mario. But also, he does have a donation option on the site. So if you express a particular interest in a particular device, you can throw some coins in his direction, because he's doing this off his own back. He doesn't work for Canonical. He's a student and has a limited amount of time. So either throwing money at him or throwing more people at him, both would be most welcome, I'm sure.
Indeed. All right. Next up, Manu asks a question, and he says there are a few negative reviews about Ubuntu Touch as installed on the MX5 Pro. How do you respond to that?
So this is a demo that was done at MWC. The MX5 Pro is a new device that isn't released with Ubuntu yet, and I think the reviews that people have seen, I think people are probably focusing on a small number of negative reviews on a device whose enablement isn't finished and the device isn't out yet. There were also a bunch of positive reviews and positive comments, and a lot of people who came by the stand and were impressed with what had been done based on the fact that it's pre-release. So I think it's fair, given that it's not out yet, that people might have a negative impression on a device which we're not shipping yet, or the manufacturer is not shipping yet. I think that's reasonable.
I think that's just one of the risks or the potential downsides that you take by showing off things early, before they're done. So you've sort of got a sneak peek. As you said, the device isn't shipping yet. So Poopy and I have never held or actually played with one of these devices, to be fair, either. So, but we can say for sure that some of the reviewers made it sound like it was the way they described it. It was slower and not as performing or not as useful a device as even the original Aquarius E4.5. So, wow. And we know we've certainly come a long way, and the hardware has come a long way. So, I'm struggling to believe that that's how it will ship. That the device will be not as nice to use as some of the newer devices that have come along, and even some of the ported devices that have come along. The hardware is way too nice to expect that, I think. So.
And I think the nice thing is that I agree with you that this is one of the downsides of doing everything in the open. Like, an Apple device gets developed in secret and gets announced at a developer conference or a press trade show when it's already finished. We're happy to show off pre-release devices, and because it's all open source, you could go and get the code and build it and run it on your device before it's finished. We have separate channels even which we promote for these devices, which are pre-released code, stuff that we haven't QA'd fully, that we haven't approved for our stable, how many thousands of users there are out there with BQ and Meizu devices. We haven't approved that for them. So we're a lot more open, and the downside of that is sometimes you see the downsides, the bad days that, that there might be. I think that's reasonable to be able to criticize the platform and say, that's not performing as well as it could, or there's a bug here, or there's an issue there. And the guys at MWC will have recognized that. And there are product managers there who are responsible for delivering that phone. So they're going to make sure that their engineers are working on those things and prioritizing those things accordingly. So I'm not particularly worried about a couple of bad reviews of a unreleased device using pre-release software. That's fine by me.
Right. And to be fair, technically, as you say, that's valuable feedback anyway.
Yeah.
I guess if they were happy with it, we'd be a little concerned because it's not finished. And
the good thing is, what we're doing over the lifetime of these devices is we're still providing updates every 6 weeks or so. A couple of them have been a bit late, but every 6 weeks or so, you get updates with not just bug fixes and security updates, but with whole new software, like whole new browser, whole new rendering engine, new version of Unity, new core applications, as you said, redesigns of some of the applications. We've just submitted an update to the clock, for example, that has the new design of that application. And underneath, there are bug fixes in things like location services, network management, all those other things that you need on your phone. And those updates keep rolling out to all of those devices, including the very first device that we shipped like over a year ago, whenever it was the BQ E4.5 came out.
Yeah, so seems like it's about a year ago. Yeah.
If you're willing to take a device and accept that we're going to be improving it over time, so the people who are working on performance improvements like app startup time, the time it takes to switch between applications and rendering and scroll performance and that kind of stuff, that stuff will come. And also, if you want to join in and help fix those things, that'll be great as well.
Indeed. All right, I suppose we beat that to death pretty good.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, Sponge asks the next question, I think, and he says, "Is it true that Touch VPN will be available on the phone settings in OTA 10 update?" I'm going to say yes, that is true. That's in the plans. So if it actually comes to pass or not, I don't know, but it is part of the plan for OTA 10. I think OTA 10 is the end of this month. I think it's the last day of the month.
That's pretty awesome. If you can, fairly trivially, easily configure a standard VPN like OpenVPN or whatever the common ones people use, OpenVPN, PPTP, those kind of things. You can trivially enable that on your phone, then that's a really compelling thing. Being able to access your work network, for example, from your phone, or being able to use a VPN to bypass perceived government snooping or snooping by other third parties might be useful as well. So it's quite a useful feature to have in the phone. And given, like I said, the EQ 4.5 shipped a year ago without VPN support, and now, over a year later, we're still doing updates, and the 10th over-the-air update is going to provide a user interface to make it easy for users to connect to a VPN. I think that's pretty awesome.
Indeed. Should we take this as an opportunity to mention some of the other stuff that's happening in OTA 10?
Feel free. I haven't got the list in front of me, so.
But there's a couple things that you know about.
I'm going to plead ignorance and let you read them out.
Come on. There's some applications shaking up. I know that have been forever trying to get in the default image, And I hesitate to say that they will be in the default image, but what are they?
I'm not saying it either.
All right, I won't pin you on. So there's a possibility that maybe we'll see some new default applications, which would be cool.
Yep.
What else?
I mean, it's no secret. It's been on the bottom of Lucas's emails, landing emails that he sends every day.
I know, but it's a bit more fun this way. We're going to make them go find it. What are those applications? I don't know of anything other stuff that I'm super excited about, but there's probably some things in there as usual.
There's in Launchpad there are milestones that Pat McGowan manages. Pat McGowan's one of the product managers. I think he was on the Q&A a couple of weeks ago.
Yes,
and he manages the milestones in Launchpad, so you can go and have a look for the numbers WW and then the week number dash and then the year. And if you look for those milestones in the canonical system image project, I think you'll find a list of bugs that are targeted to be fixed for that over-the-air update. So you can get some kind of heads up of, if your particular favorite bug is likely to be fixed in this over-the-air update or the next one. So it's quite nice and open that you can go and Launchpad and actually look at the discussion on the bug and see what the progress is like, and if the bug that is your passion that you're really annoyed about or you want to see fixed is going to be on the list for this update or the next one or the next one or whatever.
Indeed. I see you have 3. You're assigned 3 of those bugs, Alan.
Holy cow! Really? Oh,
yeah. Brilliant. The migration to UITK 1.3. That's a good one. Yeah. Okay. So cool. OTA 10. End of this month. Lots of good stuff. VPN support should be in there. Some new default apps. Some other stuff that we mentioned. What's next? Sponge asked, do you think Unity 8 will be included as standard in 1610 or as long as 1704? I believe the official answer on this now is Unity 8 will be the default when it's ready. And that's probably the best way to say it. So I think we're a bit hesitant to force anyone into Unity 8, although we definitely want to move forward and to think about it. Obviously, with 1604 being an LTS release, we don't want to drop such a new desktop on everyone for 1604. But it certainly could be the default in 1610. Who's to say? I think that would be perhaps a bit difficult. It just really depends on what Unity 8 looks like, what the uptake looks like, that sort of thing. So I don't know. But
I think it's more likely if you work logically back from 1804. If you assume, let's say it's ready for 1804 to be the default, then you can't really land it, that being the first release where it is default. So it needs to be in 1710 by default, which means it needs to be at least an option in 1704. And if it's to be an option in 1704, it needs to be quite good by 1610. So that's I mean, that's not the plan. That's the way my mind thinks through the way you should land it. But we'll see.
Indeed. Looking out 2 years, that's probably a pretty fair statement. Trying to make sure that 1804 as an LTS has Unity 8 as the default, and that it works well and is ready to go on an LTS release. And then I think Alan's logic of how that might actually need to happen is pretty sound. So
cool. Next question, Sponge asked, marketing. How should locos or local community groups market the new phones for testing? Oh, testing. That sounds like a question for you, Nick.
How should they market their users' new phones for testing, or is that up to Canonical? Yes, testing. I'm a bit confused. If he's asking for, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what he's asking for. If you have a device, I'll say this: if you have a device and you are interested in helping test new stuff, as Alan talked about, there's different channels available to you. So if you want to just use a device and not worry about anything breaking ever, and use a device like a normal phone, you should stay on stable. if you want to have some fun and follow along with the changes, you can run anything from Devil Proposed, which would be really cutting edge and could definitely break your phone at some point, requiring you to, well, not break, but requiring you to reflash your phone, to something a little bit safer like RC Proposed, which is stuff that's just before QA, but is in theory fairly ready to go. If you do that, obviously your feedback is very appreciated. So you can, as Alan says, follow the bug lists, file new bugs, talk on the mailing lists. Lucas and the release team are very vocal and active, and so you can really follow along and test new stuff, including maybe testing out silos and that sort of thing. So if you're interested and curious and you have a phone, first step is to flash a less stable release channel, and then sign up for the Ubuntu phone mailing list and follow along. That's what I would say.
Yep, definitely. Brilliant. Your questions from Warby Parker.
My glasses. No, they're not from Warby Parker. I kind of heard of Warby Parker. Is that more of a? I'm not sure that's a big American brand. Where's Warby Parker from? I'm curious now.
No idea.
I have no idea either. I'm glad you like them. I actually, there's a funny story. I know we've got questions now, so I shouldn't share stories, but I like to kite buggy. So I originally ordered these a few years ago, and I was out kiting, and so I've got a big kite strapped to me, and it was a really windy day, and well, there was a bit of an accident. I got picked up, launched high into the air, and then I was on this beach. There's a bunch of sand dunes, of course, got the big beach and the ocean, and then behind all of that is a bunch of really big sand dunes. So I went way up in the air, and of course I'm a little freaked out, and I'm ready to not be in the air anymore. And so the wind dies, and I come crashing down into the sand dune, and I land face first, Superman style, right on my glass. So I obliterated my glasses. So I think I might still have the old pair. I'm not sure, but I ordered the same pair. That's how sort of, I suppose, shallow or vain I am. I'm not sure. But I couldn't. It took me forever to pick them the first time, and I thought, oh, now it's exciting. I guess at least I get to pick a new style of glasses. But I'm lame, and I just ordered the same pair again. So.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're as excited about glasses as I am about laptops.
Yeah, not really. I don't.
Okay.
I like nice glasses, but I don't like deciding. It's not something fun. So.
Okay, let's move on. Chloe Wolfgirl has a one-word question. HUD?
HUD.
HUD. I asked John Lee about HUD at Scale a few weeks ago. John Lee is one of the design leads, and he said, yes, it's on the list.
Okay.
I mean, they will get around to redesigning how it fits into the phone at some point.
Yes.
Chloe then asks, when Ubuntu Personal is available, can we get Ubuntu laptops in more stores in places like UK and USA? Well, that would be great, but unfortunately it's not down to us. It's down to our hardware partners. They decide where they're going to sell their products. We can make the best software we can and make it a compelling experience for their users, their customers, and their customers need to demand that. And maybe we'll see more in more places. Yes.
Indeed. Chloe Forgo says, mind if you tell us any super canonical secrets like new phones?
If we knew, no. We're never going to reveal products on this Q&A. Like, with an audience of like tens of people, we're not going to tell you a new device, unfortunately.
That could be a bit fun. Maybe we'll have to challenge that at some point. But yeah not going to happen.
The good news is we're not in that position because we don't have any information that you don't already have. So that's good news.
That's the good news, indeed. Dragonbite asks, is the Ubuntu phone compatible with any smartwatch? And he mentions the Pebble.
Yes. There is a Pebble app, which was written by Michael Zanetti and a bunch of other people, including community people. And it allows you to connect to a Pebble watch like this one. And you can send watch faces to your phone, and you get alerts of incoming calls, text messages, Telegram messages, all that kind of stuff sent to your smartwatch. So yes, there is a Pebble app, and it's called Rockwork, a bit like Clockwork, but with a rock instead of a pebble. Cool name, huh?
I wonder who chose
that. What's next?
Chloe Wolfer Girl asks, any update on the plugin messaging app? The answer is
rewind a bit, Chloe, because we talked about that earlier.
Yes.
You were late arriving, unfortunately. It was noticed.
Okay. Sponge asks, which is a better laptop, a top System 76 or a top Lenovo ThinkPad, in your opinion?
Don't know. Never used a System 76, so I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I've also never used System 76, although I have seen their stuff, and in general, it's quite nice. And maybe I'll say the System 76 because I'm not a nipple person.
See, this is my problem. The one thing that I need that only is that thing, that red dot. I need that.
Yep. To be fair, I was. I ran ThinkPads for a long time, but now I like a big fat ClickPad, no buttons.
Any update on getting phones? This question from Dragonbite. Any update on getting phones available in the USA that can run 4G? I don't know.
Yeah, if you're curious, the MX5 I looked does not. The biggest problem with USA stuff is the support for the LTE bands, because of course we're different, because we have to be different than the rest of the world. Yep. So the rest of the world's phones can run just fine on their LTE networks, but not on ours. So support really has to be specific to the US in order to make it happen. That said, of course, all of your 3G and HSPA stuff, which is still fairly fast and definitely usable, are supported on any of the Meizu phones, and maybe even the E5. I'm not sure, but so if you're able to get a phone and you have one of the newer Meizu phones, it should function, well enough. Certainly well enough here in the States, but otherwise, no luck on LTE.
Dragonbite asks, Ubuntu Touch on Raspberry Pi 3?
Ooh.
Well, I don't think we have any plans to put Ubuntu Touch specifically on the Raspberry Pi 3. We already have a snappy image for the Pi 2. And once the engineers who work on Snappy get a Pi 3, I'm sure we'll see a port of Snappy to the Pi 3. But once the phone moves to Snappy, which it will do later this year or maybe next year, I don't know when, then it's the same code base on the Pi as it is on the phone. So in theory, there'll be a package in the store for all the touch-related stuff, and on a Raspberry Pi, you could Snappy install all the touch-related packages, attach a screen, and
right.
We have Ubuntu Touch on, whether it's a 10-foot UI on a TV or a tiny little touch screen like that. So potentially, yes, but not just yet.
Indeed. Chloe Wolfer Girl says, which of the previous Ubuntu animals will win a magical space battle? My vote goes to Utopic Unicorn. Oh, geez. Someone should have linked a list if you want a serious answer.
Which is the biggest one?
You gonna choose the biggest one?
Yeah, I'd probably choose the biggest one.
I'd most likely pick my favorite. The pangolins were cool. I loved herons, both the release and the name, and the animal.
It's a good question. That one I'll have to think about a bit more.
Yeah, I will. I still want a list. Link a list. I'll give you a more serious answer.
Next question. Is there a plan to make some kind of secret Trojan horse Windows app which is designed as an MS update that replaces Windows with Ubuntu? So we used to have that. It was called Wooby. It was Wooby was a great way to get people started on Ubuntu, because you could just download a single little executable or get it off the CD, and then it would install Ubuntu as if it were an application, and then users could dual boot between Windows and Ubuntu. It was a bit quirky, and performance was not fantastic for production, but it was okay to test out Ubuntu and see if it worked the way you were hoping. Yeah, I've seen scripts that will take any Linux distro and turn it into a Gentoo install, Like it's just a single shell script. You run it, and it just mucks about with your install, moves everything around, and then when you reboot, you're in Gentoo.
Oh, brilliant!
I quite like the idea of having
stage 1 install, right? Not a full install. I said it's got to be a stage 1 install, right? Not a full install, so you don't actually have anything. It's just.
Well, I think if you leave it long enough, you would. Yeah, I would like to see, actually, not necessarily on the desktop replacing Windows, but I would like it to be easier to take an Android device and turn that into an Ubuntu device. You know, if there was a desktop app that you could run, and it identifies your device and then tells you what buttons to press on the device to unlock it, and gives you the warning you're going to lose all your data, and then goes off online and finds an Ubuntu image appropriate for your device and just pushes it onto your image. That would be nice. Onto your phone. That would be nice.
That would be cool.
Okay.
Dragonbite asks, is there any version of Unity 7 or 8 that's going to be able to be pulled into another distro? I think notifications were a sticking point previously. For Unity 7, I know Arch has a package. I don't know of any other distro that's had long-term success in Unity 7. Unity 8 should be much, much simpler, as far as I understand it, for other distributions to pick up and actually run. And I think that's where most of the effort and thought is going, is that Unity 8 will be much easier to ship, and I imagine distributions will actually do so, package and have it available for other people. So, Manu asks, do you have any plans to launch any YouTube channel or other video tutorials for the development of Ubuntu Touch apps or scopes?
Yes. Next question.
Okay. I will mention there is the Ubuntu Developers YouTube channel now. Dragonbite asks, is there any way to get a Ubuntu phone for demonstration purposes? I could demonstrate Ubuntu Touch at a computer club with either a phone or a tablet.
Yeah, you can go to the BQ online store and buy one, or you can go to your favorite online reseller of secondhand things. I use eBay, and buy one there. That's what I did. I personally bought this Ubuntu, this OnePlus One, and what's my other one called? And this BQ phone. Out of my own pocket, I bought those phones so that I could demo Ubuntu to my friends and family, and shows and stuff.
Right. I have a couple Nexus devices for the same reason. So there you go.
Cool.
What's next? Clue says some reviews of the Meizu. Oh well, see, this is what happens when you're late.
Yeah.
Some reviews of the Meizu Pro 5 say the software is really slow, and apps aren't what they should be, I guess. How do you deal with them as complaints? We actually talked about that quite a bit earlier in the show, so I won't rehash that. The quick summary is essentially this is what happens when you're very open, and so this is nothing new for us with Ubuntu. When you're open and you show pre-release stuff, you get feedback. Dragonbite says, any system requirements for Unity 8 more or less than Unity 7? I'll go out on a limb and say the Unity 8 is it's a bit interesting. I'm guessing it requires less CPU but greater graphical requirements, which is in general.
Really? I would have thought it was the. I don't know. I haven't benchmarked it, but pretty sure Compiz was more GPU heavy than Unity 8 and Qt is.
Right, but see, it's a bit weird because of the hardware support, right? So presumably, like, you can have a slower GPU as long as it's newer and it supports the newer EGL stuff. That's what I'm saying. It's a bit weird when you talk about that.
Yeah.
But I don't think the CPU requirements are as high for. And so to be fair, maybe the GPU requirements aren't either, as long as you have a newer GPU. So there you go. It's probably better all around. Wolfie Girl asked for forgiveness. Of course, we forgive you. That's why these are recorded. You can go back and watch and get answers to your questions. Sponge asks, as you well know, 1604 is the main focus for everyone at the moment, following following on from that, all the flavors get a massive update. I know Popey's favorite is Ubuntu Mate. What is Balloon's favorite flavor and why? Ooh. Nice.
True. Ubuntu Mate is my favorite flavor.
How did you know? Wow. What's my favorite flavor and why? You know, I kind of like and have used many of the flavors at some point or another. I used Ubuntu back in the day quite a bit because I remember when LXDE first came out and I had an old laptop and it was brilliant. It was like, you know, a faster stripped down version of GNOME. I used XFCE for a year or two at one point as well, and so then Ubuntu was awesome. I flirted with Kubuntu so many times it hurts. I really want to love KDE, and I do. I wish them all the best in the world. And I did run it at one point. I think 4.4 and 4.5, somewhere in there. I keep waiting for the next release, so I'm sure I'll run Kubuntu again at some point. So it's hard to pick, but I'm excited, like I said, for all of them. For Ubuntu moving to GTK 3, for Ubuntu, I'm really excited about the Razer Qt and the LXDE Qt port. I want to see that, and for KDE, I want to see KDE 5, you know, start to rock the world. So I won't pick one. I'll pick 3. Whoever gets it right first, I guess, will be my next alt install. I tend to run one of the flavors on my laptop generally, and I've got my main Ubuntu desktop on my desktop. So there you go.
Awesome. Very.
I didn't mention Mate at all, I guess, to be fair, or GNOME.
Sorry.
I said, I guess I didn't mention Ubuntu GNOME or Ubuntu Mate.
Or Ubuntu Studio, Server, or Edge Ubuntu, or.
Well, right.
Okay, what's the next question?
The next question is, we've got to be quick because we got just a few minutes. And he asks, has the FBI asked for a backdoor yet in the Ubuntu phone, or is it considered too small?
We have no idea.
Right, no idea, and there's no way we could tell you. And to be fair, they probably don't need such things. There's other ways of finding out information about you if they care to. Chloe Wolfie Girl asked, does Xmirror run X apps any worse than X11? The short answer of that is not really. Xmirror is just a minor translation layer, and so there is a very minimal overhead. I know Kevin did some initial benchmarking. If you're really curious, you could probably go dig those up. But in general, no, it's not a big deal running Xmirror. And
actually, if you're talking objectively worse or better than X11, performance isn't the only factor. There's the fact that X11 apps under Xmirror are confined within an AppArmor container. So that, you could say, is better, because one X11 app won't be able to stomp all over another X11 app. And one X11 app deleting data that's appropriate to another X11 app. So you could argue it's better.
There you are. Yes. Dragonbite asks, how are they going to handle the names after Z? Zorking Zombie.
We're not. We're just going to shut it down. That's it. Get to Z. Our work is done here. Game over.
That is the last Ubuntu release, I hear.
Yeah.
So
you heard it here first.
Chloe Wolfie Girl asks, will we get encryption for the phone?
I think there is a plan to do that, but probably not until we move to Snappy. I don't think we're going to work on encryption while it's a click-based install. I think we will probably work on that once we move to Snappy.
And presumably we'll get encrypted home and encrypted boot, so we can have a completely encrypted device.
I think it makes no sense to do anything other than encrypt everything. But I'm only guessing. There's no plan that I know of, but I just know that it's not currently on the radar in the short term.
Indeed. Sponge asks, are there any Easter eggs in the next OTA considering it's Easter? An actual Easter egg, that could be a bit fun.
They're actually hard to put in because it's all open source. So yes, people spot these things.
That's true. People would have to play nice and not spoil the surprise. Right. But it still could be fun.
Unity 7 years ago that had a Nico cat thing.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know how that sneaked in. I think the engineer and the person who reviewed the code colluded to get the Easter egg in. That would never happen now.
Never. All right. Well, I think we're out of time and potentially out of questions as well.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you for some questions, everyone. It's nice to get some different ones, even if they are weird, about which of the release animals would win in a fight. And I've looked through the release list.
Oh,
for me, it's either going to be the narwhal or the werewolf, because like werewolves are completely unpredictable. You never know what a werewolf is going to do you? This is the most important question.
Yeah, this is very important. I feel like I have to pick an answer. Gibbon, that might be, if it's a land-based fight, he might win, to be fair.
Well, come back next week and ask Daniel Holbach and Mike Hall what animal would win, and see what they come up with. Thanks, everyone, and don't forget to subscribe to the Ubuntu On Air channel on YouTube, and then you get notification when these things go live. And if you want to ask any more questions, come back next Tuesday at 1600 UTC for the next community team Q&A. Thanks very much, Nick. And
thanks, Alan.
Everyone, for your awesome questions.
Indeed. It was good fun.
See you next time.
See you.